The bustling energy that once defined cross-border travel between Canada and the United States has suddenly shifted, catching many by surprise. Canadian tourists, who used to be a dependable boost for local economies in places like Florida, New York and Maine, are now canceling their trips en masse. At first glance it might seem like a typical dip in travel demand, but there's more beneath the surface. In quiet unison, these travelers have turned their vacation plans into a political statement, effectively boycotting U.S. destinations because of rising tensions and a perceived erosion of respect between the two countries. In an era when global politics can influence everything from trade policies to personal choices, tourism is emerging as a subtle but potent form of protest. Local business owners in popular U.S. vacation spots have started noticing the dramatic decline in Canadian visitors, some reporting losses of up to 90% in Canadian clientele. Where crowds of eager tourists once filled hotels and restaurants, now vacancies linger, worrying owners who rely heavily on that international influx. This isn't just about missing out on seasonal profits. For many regions, Canadian tourists have long been a lifeline, injecting billions of dollars into local economies each year. Lacking these customers, small businesses and large resorts alike scramble to attract new markets or simply stay afloat. When so many Canadian tourists withdraw at once, it sends a signal that resonates beyond missed hotel bookings, pointing to a growing rift in US-Canada relations. Talk to the average Canadian canceling a trip, and they'll often mention national pride and frustration with certain US policies or rhetoric. It's not that they dislike Americans on a personal level, it's that they feel a line has been crossed on a political stage. This sentiment coincides with broader tensions affecting industries far removed from tourism, such as automotive manufacturing and technology. A series of trade policies, tariffs and public statements have reinforced the idea that perhaps Canada should reduce dependence on its southern neighbor, redirecting attention elsewhere. What was once a close-knit bond has started to feel more like a strained partnership, amplifying calls for a tourism boycott. At the same time, the United States is facing a parallel challenge on the world stage. Europe has pushed back against U.S. trade policies, especially those tied to steel and aluminum tariffs, leading to retaliatory measures aimed at core U.S. exports. This has made the climate more hostile for well-known American companies, including Tesla. Once admired for innovation, Tesla has confronted sharp criticism in Europe over labor agreements and controversial statements by its CEO, Elon Musk. Danish pension funds and Swedish labor unions have taken firm stances against the company, illustrating that brand loyalty can erode when politics and corporate practices clash with local values. The result? Tesla's market share in places like Norway has plummeted, and once strong investor confidence has been replaced by skepticism and protest. These shifts aren't limited to consumer choices. Governments are also acting. Canada, uncertain about future U.S. policies, has embarked on new defense collaborations with Australia and Europe. Instead of relying solely on American military technology, Canada has signed substantial deals for radar systems and jets from overseas partners. These deals point to a long-term strategy of diversifying defense capabilities and reducing reliance on U.S. suppliers, particularly at a time when global security concerns in the Arctic are on the rise. The northern region holds untapped resources and new shipping lanes, making it a coveted area for multiple powers. By developing its own surveillance and defense strategies, Canada aims to protect its sovereignty without leaning too heavily on American alliances. Local U.S. economies feel the pinch from these broader movements almost immediately. Florida real estate offices, once bustling with Canadian buyers and renters, are finding fewer applicants and slower sales. Ski resorts in states like Vermont now see fewer Canadian families during peak seasons. Even major entertainment hubs, from theme parks to casinos, feel the decline in Canadian visitation. Experts warn that if only a small fraction of Canadians cut back their annual spending in the U.S., the ripple effect could eliminate thousands of American jobs and threaten the sustainability of local businesses already grappling with slim margins. Critics argue that the American government's approach to trade negotiations and international relations may have inadvertently fueled this wave of boycotts. Protectionist policies, while intended to safeguard domestic industries, have instead prompted allies to consider alternative partnerships. In Europe, leaders have not hesitated to impose retaliatory tariffs, targeting key U.S. goods in politically sensitive regions. This disrupts supply chains and raises costs for American industries, from agriculture to manufacturing, nudging them into an increasingly uncertain market environment. the blow to foreign relations might have a deeper impact in the long run, as friends turn into cautious partners and look to each other for more reliable ties. For Canada, this moment is about identity as much as economics. Citizens who once visited the US regularly now say the American political climate doesn't align with their own values, especially regarding multiculturalism and open trade. Rather than protesting in the streets, they vote with their wallets by canceling resort bookings and selling off US property. In some ways, this grassroots approach has been more impactful than outright demonstrations because it quietly saps revenue from markets that always counted on Canadian visitors. Real estate agents and hoteliers have begun lobbying lawmakers to mend fences, but uncertainty persists. It's unclear whether any change in tone or policy could quickly restore that sense of welcome Canadians once felt. Meanwhile, the European Union has noticed Canada's shift in focus and is moving to deepen economic and defense ties with Ottawa. Negotiations for advanced trade agreements continue, reducing tariffs and encouraging the exchange of goods, services, and even military equipment. From the EU's perspective, partnering with Canada can help counterbalance US dominance, particularly when the United States imposes tariffs on European products. Canada likewise benefits by diversifying its export markets, ensuring it won't be as vulnerable to the ebbs and flows of a single partner. Such alliances could reshape the global economic landscape, putting North America's traditional hierarchy into question. American businesses find themselves torn. On one hand, they share a home market that can sustain profits even without foreign customers. On the other hand, missing out on Canadian buyers or European contracts means forfeiting growth opportunities. As more Canadians align with Europe or Asia for tourism, investments, and defense, the US risks losing its role as the go-to partner for trade and innovation. This worry extends to the tech sector, which has already faced scrutiny from European regulators over data privacy and market monopolies. Yet there's another side of the story. Many Canadians still cherish the historical friendship between the two nations and might prefer a middle ground. For decades, cross-border travel flourished because of shared family ties, cultural similarities, and geographical convenience. Despite the political climate, not all Canadians have opted for a boycott. Some argue that direct dialogue is more productive than cutting off leisure travel. Others see it as a personal preference without larger political implications. This debate plays out daily in online forums, Canadian media, and family discussions, highlighting the complexity behind every canceled trip. For American communities known for hospitality, the hope is that improved diplomacy and mutual respect can bridge the growing divide. If political leaders adopt a more balanced tone, perhaps more Canadians will feel comfortable crossing the border again. Similarly, if Canada perceives genuine efforts to address trade imbalances and policy differences, the boycott might subside. Until then, the impact is hard to ignore. Stranded hotels, vacant rental properties, and shifting alliances are signs of a deeper realignment that could permanently alter the way these close neighbors interact. One thing is certain. Tourism is no longer just about beaches and sunshine but also about sovereignty, pride, and protest. Canadians choosing to forego US vacations are inserting themselves into a global conversation about fairness, respect, and the power of collective action. As new trade deals spark fresh cooperation between Canada, Europe, and other regions, the US may need to reevaluate its strategies to maintain a stable economic and diplomatic environment. In the end, this travel boycott exposes how intertwined politics and travel have become, and it raises an important question: when pride and profit collide, which path will nations, and individual travelers, ultimately choose?